What is up, fellow last placers, and welcome to whatever episode this is, but we're going to be discussing episode 4 of Loki in today's episode. So I am here with Chris, as always, because this is our 15 seconds to shame Yendi. So go, Yendi, watch the show. You're tripping. We both know it. And that's
Shame.
all we have to say. Shame. And then we're moving on. So, Chris, what's up, man? How you doing?
Uh, Not much, man. Just chilling. Rushed home to watch this. The spoilers were heavy with this
Yeah.
episode. It was trending all over Twitter, and I was like, "Oh
Hmm.
my god!" I threw my phone. I threw it out the car. I was like, "I gotta go home. I gotta go watch it now
It's
before I see
amazing.
anything." Yeah, it's really good. This is a really good
Yeah.
episode.
So we're gonna get right into talking about the episode. So episode 4, if you guys haven't watched it, we advise you go watch it now. Was probably the best episode. I think we can agree consistent like on consensus because like it just this is where the most things happen and we're finally getting a lot of the plot now. So I
Hmm.
feel like everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's the best episode." And then I know a lot of people were hating on episode 3, but just know that episode 4 would not have been as great as it was without episode 3. So if you don't like, you know what I mean, episode 3 was like the perfect setup for an episode like this because now you have caring for both of those characters. Like
Yeah.
you care for, for everyone. Like, you know what I mean? So like now that you have this care for the characters, now you're like, okay, now when something affects them, I'm going to care even more. So with Sylvie and everything like that. So Chris, what did you think about the episode in totality?
I was very excited for this one because Tom Hiddleston came out and said that 4 and 5 is his favorite out of the
Mhm.
series. What's the girl? What's the judge's name?
Ravona.
Ravona.
Yeah.
You're beautiful, but you bitch. I swear. Ooh, you made me so upset.
Yeah.
I was hoping for you, but
Hmm.
yeah, you messed it up. You messed it up. So this episode was, like I said, it was fantastic. I did call it like them sit. We got another nice moment in the beginning where they're sitting there and they think they're going to die, and
Yeah.
obviously the doors open and they have to
Mhm.
step through it, and that's when they get arrested. Which I mean, that was kind of the only way they could go. They're not gonna just be like, ah, these two are dead. Um,
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool, or I thought it was really cool how annoyed Loki was. Like he's finally starting to realize that his like the boy who cried wolf scenario
Mhm.
is turning against him because he's like, I'm honestly telling the truth. Like I'm being so
Yeah.
truthful right now, and nobody's listening to me. Like why not? And it's just like, well, man, your track record doesn't prove that we
It
can
doesn't
trust
help you
you.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now he's finally realizing, like, damn it, man. Like I had all this fun and now nobody, like I'm literally trying to save people and it's not working anymore. Um,
Yeah.
but it was really cool. I loved uh that guard had a huge change of heart and wanting to find out who she was and where she came from. And
Hmm.
I did not expect her to be helping out Sylvie and all that stuff so early on. And
Hmm.
the flashback, we got to see a little bit more of Asgard, or Sylvie as a kid in Asgard, and they just touched on it just a little bit.
Hmm.
So I thought that was a little weird.
No, I mean there was some details in there that was great. I mean, her talking about Valkyrie kind of shows you, hey, that there is a Valkyrie in that world. Also, if you looked at the toys themselves, if you remember, Loki's dog, the big dog that's in there, I forgot his
Mhm.
name. It starts with an F. Fennery, I think, is the name. I could be wrong, but she also has like a toy model of that. But like it what that first scene did for Asgard and showing that it did show like she was in Asgard and she did have somewhat of it, so she might have been adopted also. Like we don't know exactly how that plays into the story, but we do know she was on Asgard at a time and she probably like it just was probably a completely different scenario, but she did grow up at idolizing Valkyrie and having stuff like that, which is a very good callback because it's the callback in Thor Ragnarok cuz Thor also has like you remember how hyped he was about the Valkyries and he was like I always wanted to be a Valkyrie, but you're all women, so like
Yeah.
and then so like you know what I mean, so it makes sense that you know a young girl would idolize Valkyries in in that setting.
In
So
that
I think
space.
yeah, so I think them showing that and that scene was also to show the relationship between her and Ravonna. So basically showing that she was the one who got away, and Ravonna kind of has this animosity towards her because she let her go, even though she's in the position she was in, and now she feels like I have to get her. Like this is like my life goal is like I have to figure out a way to find her because she's the variant that got away from me. So I think that was what that first see us seeing Asgard in that scenario
Mhm.
was, and I think that's pretty cool.
Also the um nope, lost my the timekeepers. Finally
Yeah.
seeing them and seeing what they look like
Hmm.
reminded me of I mean it's been so long, but the dudes from Green Lantern.
Yeah, the what are they called in Green Lantern? The Guardians.
The Guardians, yeah. So whenever I
Yeah.
saw them, that's the feeling I got whenever I saw them. But that scene when they're talking, I had to
Yeah.
rewind that whole scene and turn on subtitles. I had no idea
Yeah.
what those guys were saying. I was like, I
I,
understand the first guy, and then the two other guys started speaking. I was like, what? I'm like, what? What are you
yeah.
saying? So yeah, I had to turn on. If you guys didn't understand what they were saying, go back and turn on subtitles because it helped a lot. I was just like, okay, this makes more sense. Because to me, what it sounded like was like a lot of gibberish, and then Loki would reply, and I'm like, okay, is it like to the point where I thought they were speaking another language or something at some point.
Yeah.
So
And they actually were pretty they were character modeled from pretty much the comic book. That's exactly how they look.
yeah,
So that was pretty cool, like to see that and just have them having that conversation and stuff like that. But then we also find out that, they're not real, which is a insane callback to Falcon and Winter Soldier, because remember when he's like it's always the big three, like androids, aliens,
oh
or
yeah.
wizards, and like because they were androids, I was like, oh shit, like I was like he was right, like you know what I'm saying. So I thought that was pretty cool that they kind of referenced that, even though it was like a fake model of them, but like totally it's one of the big three, like you know what I mean. So I thought that was a good MCU callback, even like from their last thing. So I thought they did some really cool things with that. And just like I said, if you watch these things long enough, you'll see that they always kind of reference things. Like it's insane if you played really close attention. But I didn't notice this the first time I watched it. But if you go back and watch it again, when they're looking at the variant, when they're looking for where Loki and Sylvie are, and remember when that spike goes up, if you look on the screen itself, it says Morag, like place where what you call it, where Peter gets the Power Stone.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you go back and look at that screen again and read the top line, it says Morag on it. And I don't that's not the place that they're on,
yeah.
but that was another location in time that they were looking at. So I thought that was pretty cool. So there's
Hmm.
yeah, of course, like I said, there's always things that MCU just loves to call back on. As far as for me, I thought the conversation between Loki and Sylvie was great, where like the whole thing when they were talking about, like when Loki talks about what makes a Loki and how they survive, and like it's always, you know what I mean, we don't die, we survive, like we always find a way, kind of thing. And it's so representative of his character, right? Because it's like, yes, Loki actually doesn't die, which is why in Infinity War it's such a shock to us, because it's like, oh shit, he actually died. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I thought, like, you know what I mean, him saying that and be like, we actually don't die because now he's technically not dead, because we're still like we're living a journey through him even though we saw him die.
Yeah.
It kind of like the perfect sentiment, like, hey, this is not what we do, we don't die, so we'll be back somehow. Something crazy is going to happen. And obviously they started to spark a ridiculous rift in time, like, you know what I mean, which you saw on the meter, like I said.
Well,
But
they
the
didn't
meter was,
fix. Did they just touch on that? They. I think they said the line of like, "Do you know how hard it is to keep the timeline in check?" And I guess
yeah.
the timekeepers did it because at the end of the second episode, is that when we
Hmm.
meet? Yeah, that's when we meet Sylvie, and she detonates the bomb, and you see all the tracks go off, and then the next time you see it, it's a straight line again. And I was like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
thought this was gonna do something here."
No, yeah, but remember, if she's when she jumped, because she then jumped to the TVA. So like it happened, and then she came back to the TVA, which is what they didn't expect.
Oh,
Because
gotcha.
remember, she used the portal to go
Yeah,
to the
you're right.
TVA. So I think I think the possibilities of anything happening besides her going there would have opened up the rest of the things. But I think it was also to cover her. So you could be right. Also, it could have just to cover her tracks so that they didn't know she
And she
infiltrated the
that she went
TVA.
in, they were too busy
Yeah,
freaking out
they
about.
were too busy about like
Yeah,
we have to keep it straight. So
yeah.
I think that was you know super cool scene back even in episode 2. But
Also, this
yeah,
was
so
I think this is the first episode too that had an end credit scene.
yes,
So
it
if you
has a
guys didn't
mid.
know, please fast forward all the way to the end and see that end credit
Yeah,
scene. Because whenever I saw
yeah.
it, I paused it and I was looking and I was like, "Oh man, I can't wait to ask Alan
Yeah,
about
I
these
got, I
guys."
got, I got, I got the deets on that. I got the deets on those. Some of the, we'll get there in a second.
Yeah,
But also I loved the time loop referencing Doctor Strange and the fact that it was Lady Sif,
yeah.
and it was that was like perfect because it was just like oh she really doesn't like him anyway, and then that is real torture to him because it's like he's really has to deal with his like yo okay I messed up, but like she's just saying the same thing and, and keeps kicking his ass the whole time, and he's just like, God, like
And it's funny because
it
it's like you're thinking in your head because in my moment, whenever he steps through and he's in that area, and the first time it happens and it repeats, I was like, okay.
mhm.
I was like, I thought you would put him in like a worse situation, like he has to see his mom die or something like that. But it's kind
Yeah,
of funny that it's something like it's a breakup so minimal and it's so
yeah,
small that if you keep playing it, he starts to realize, okay, this is actually like a bigger issue than I thought, and it
yeah.
it just unlocks more and more in him that it's just like, okay, I'm an asshole, like.
It's
So
just one of those things where it's just like that Chinese water torture where it's like, when that just that
yeah,
little
just
drop
a
of
drip.
water
Yep.
that just keeps hitting you, and it's just like you have so much time to think that you don't know exact like you just start going, okay, you know what? I am a narcissist. Like I
Yeah.
am all these things that people say that I am, but I do want to do good, you know what I mean? And then I thought that was awesome, but also one of the key things we kind of passed over was when Loki tells Mobius that they're all variants,
Oh
like you know what I
yes.
mean, and
Yeah.
it kind of starts to cycle that wheel for him, and he's like, oh, like you know what I mean, is this true, kind of thing, and then he, kind of turns on Ravonna to find out that Hunter 23, I want to say, could be wrong on that, but
No,
she
I think
like
it's like
was
C something.
C42 or something, one of
C40.
those
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be that. I didn't write it down. But yeah, so when he finds that out and he's like, "Oh, they've been lying." And then he actually goes back to Loki and then is like, "Hey, like, you know what I'm saying?
But that heartbreak in the
I
beginning
believe
when
you."
he doesn't believe, like you can tell
Yeah.
he wants to believe him, and
Mhm.
whenever that moment he was just like, I thought you were gonna be a friend,
Yeah.
and all this other
But
stuff.
then
You
yeah,
notice it, like you're like, oh man, that
but
sucks.
then he also found it to question it cuz when he was just like when Loki was like um I can live with you not believing me, but you lying to yourself
Yeah.
is what like you know what I mean is the biggest thing, and that was like, and then that's when you felt Mobius actually felt it, like you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying. So I thought that was a unique way to show their relationship and all that stuff, and like it, and then when he comes back, it's awesome because it's like how about you trust a friend, like you know
Yeah.
what I mean, and like it shows that Loki and Mobius were actually friends, only for them to walk into some into Ravonna finding out that he
Son of
took
a
the
bitch.
time to
Yeah, because
have.
that moment where he's just like, you know what? I did have I want to know if I had a family. I probably had a jet ski and all this other stuff.
Mhm.
And then they take her
Yeah.
and she takes him out. I was like, you. I was yelling at
Yeah.
the TV,
She's
man.
like pruning him, and he was like, no.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So, but it was one of those things. Mobius also did a thing where he mentioned vampires for the first time, which was, if you guys know, we're getting Blade. So
Hmm.
like for them to like be easing those little details, like you got like
He
that's what
said
I'm saying
he
about
said
like
Titans,
the MCU.
vampires, and what else?
He said Titans, Kree, which is
Kree. That's what it was. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kree, and then vampires.
Yeah.
So like those little details right there, like you know what I mean, it just starts to get the blood going because like you're like, all right, now and like you already know Blade is gonna come out, but now that we're talking about vampires, it's
Hmm.
like, oh, here we go. Like we know what that means. So like those little moments right there is what excites me on these shows because it's like the little details that if you don't like if You just have to catch them. It might seem like meaningless conversation, but it's not. Like everything has a place
Yeah.
in these episodes, and it's like that's why like I don't like when people are like, "Oh, well, I don't like I didn't get." It's just like you're missing things. Like there's things that are going on. There's importance to every episode in these MCU things. They don't hide like, you know what I mean? They don't just make an episode to make an episode. And that's what I really love about the like these shows cuz it doesn't feel like to me personally that there's any fillers, you know? So I really enjoy that. What else? What else? Yeah, that whole thing was cool. And then the scene where, you know, Loki gets I guess, you know, he gets pruned and it's a callback to when the way he killed Colston.
Yeah.
So like it was pretty like, oh well, you know what? You're an asshole, Loki, so you get what you paid for. Like, you know what I mean? So that to me was very interesting because it was like, yeah, you did this to someone, now it's happening to you.
Yeah, but
And I mean,
also, go ahead.
yeah, and I mean it was a shocker because you're like, oh, they're because I know Loki's plan before that was to try to recreate the the that alternate dimension which they were doing on the other planet.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean? Because I think him saying to Loki, I mean to Sylvie that, you know, he loves her, which is what I think he was gonna say,
Yeah.
was going to open up, you know what I mean, something crazy or blow up whatever the sacred timeline was or be a huge danger to it. So I think that's what he was getting ready to say. And then it is kind of funny when Mobius mentioned that earlier in the episode where
That
it
you
was
love
like,
yourself,
you,
like, oh
yeah,
my
you
god, you're
love
such a
yourself. You're like,
narcissist.
that's
Like, yeah, I didn't
like
think
you're
about it
in
until he
love with
said
the,
it.
yeah.
As soon as he said
You're
it that
in
way,
love
I was
with
like,
your own
oh
version
wait.
of yourself. And I was like, yeah, you know, because you, again, you get lost in those characters. Like
Yeah.
you don't even think about, oh, it is another Loki. So that happening and that callback was pretty insane. And then, you know, we get a pruned Loki. And honestly, like Sylvie's upset because she now has a connection, an emotional connection to Loki now. So it was very interesting because you could tell when she was like, "Are you okay?" Like, you know what I mean? She
Yeah.
like we were talking about like in the last episode of this, we were talking about that where she just like that sense of wanting to depend on someone or have someone. She finally got it, even though it's a version of herself, but like it was finally someone she could connect to, and I thought
Yeah.
that was awesome.
That moment too, I feel like they knew that the audience was gonna feel this way when when Sylvie fights her and
Yeah.
gets her, and she has the prune, and she puts her hands up, right,
Mhm.
and you could tell on her face, she's like, you know, show me mercy, like don't do this. And I yelled at the TV, I'm like, no, do it, like go ahead. And then she says it to herself, she's like, do it. She's like, no, you're gonna tell me everything. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, well, fine. I was like, I guess
Well,
you're right.
Yeah, you got to get the information.
Yeah,
out
but for
because
me,
it's-
I'm like that. I mean, that's why I'm not a hero or any, because I would have acted off of
Pure
emotion.
vengeance.
Yeah, I would have been like, nah, bro, you took out this man. Like, you took out two people.
And it was also another awesome thing was the fact that with Sylvie's enchanting power, being able to unlock people's like past to find out that everyone was a variant was also pretty cool because like people like that's what Mobius was like. You know, I did have a life before this, even though he wasn't enchanted. But you know, the guard was, and she saw a life, and which is why she helped her because she looked. She said she looked happy, and now that the TVA have been basically kidnapping people to become we want to find out more. We have 2 episodes left, so it's kind of like insane to think about, but like I'm so ready. So the post credit scene, let's talk about that.
Oh
so,
wait, real quick question. What happened to the? I'm blanking out. What happened to the guard? Because I know she comes in, she throws the knife, and then she starts fighting. She didn't get pruned or anything, right? She's just...
No, we didn't see what happened actually. If I
Okay,
remember, I got to go back, but I don't remember us seeing anything.
I don't think anything happened. Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so then the post credit scene happens, and we're in an area of New York City. The only reason why I know that is because there's a falling Avengers Tower. If you guys didn't know this, that's in the background because obviously I paused it.
Mhm.
Don't worry, I am that person who does that thing. So, you see the Lokis, and it's 4 separate Lokis. So the old man, the one that's on the right,
That's one I've seen.
far one.
Yeah.
He's the one. That's just basically a callback to old school 1968 Loki.
Okay.
That's his old costume. That's the way he looked.
Yeah.
The kid Loki, which is a key to the Young Avengers, because he's in that also, which is confirms my theory. We're
That
gonna
we're
get a
gonna
Young
get.
Avengers shows because this is like this is like character 8 of the Young Avengers that we have. If you guys don't know, we have Cassie, who is Scott Lang's daughter.
Mhm.
We have the Hawkeye show that's coming out, which she's a Young Avenger. We have we have now Kid Loki. We have Wiccan and Speed, which was in WandaVision.
WandaVision.
They're both in Young Avengers also. We have Elijah's grandson, who's Patriot. He's in the Young Avengers also. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like
so it's just knocking them out.
this
Yeah.
Young Avengers show is happening. Like, I am convinced. I don't need anything else. Like, I don't need nothing more to know that this is it. Alligator Loki, that's just something they added in. I don't remember him from any of the comics, but I thought it was hilarious that they had an alligator Loki because that's just funny. And then the Loki, the black Loki, essentially, he's not in the comics, but it was a
because he had
it
Thor's
is
hammer, right?
yes,
Or
so
like a
that
version of Thor's hammer.
yes, so that is a reference to a what if issue. I want to say, I don't know it off. Maybe 47. I want to say in the 40s. I don't know if I am right on 47. I want to say it's like it's a what if issue where if Loki got Thor's hammer and not Thor, so and that's a reference to that. So that's why he has a Mjolnir that looks like Loki's because that issue of what if was something that they wrote, and if you guys know, they're doing a what if series which is the animated series. So that's kind of a callback to the comics of those. So that's what that Loki is from. It was just the old Loki, but it's just they're just reference like it was just the same Loki
Mm-hmm.
with like as if he were to get Thor's hammer. So that's what they're referencing it to for that.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
those are all four of them.
I think the alligator
Essentially.
Loki is just kind of like whenever like into the Spider-Verse, like you have the pig. Like I feel like each character
Yeah.
is gonna have some kind of animal rendition
Animal
to it.
version,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So I think that was a thing too.
yeah.
So it was pretty amazing just to and funny enough if you guys know this, and this is only because I listen to soundtracks religiously, but if you guys notice back in when Loki's on the ground after he's like beat up, they play the same music that when he's like I'll take that drink now when the Avengers come to get him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they play that song when Loki's laying down because like he just got beat up and then it's like
I'll
I'll
have to
take that
check that
drink
out.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when he notices the other Lokis, that's what happens. So if you ever like, but I like I said, I love the soundtrack cuz Adam Silverstreet, he's amazing on all of those things. So please like listen to those soundtracks. They are totally worth it. But yeah, so that was pretty much what it was about those Lokis. And it's nice that, he ran into four other Lokis. So it's just like Loki's all over the place.
I know.
And
It's
I
crazy.
just want to know I want to know where he is, you know what I mean? Because like I said, I only can assume they're in New York somewhere in a post-apocalyptic New York of probably, the world ending. Because he didn't remember, he said, am I dead? And he was like, you will be if you don't come with us. So they kind of know like a
Yeah, I
way
feel
to
like
dodge this death.
my idea of where it's going is that we're gonna find out these Lokis have been through what Loki is going through right now.
Yeah.
It's like,
And it
hey,
could,
we ended up here. We got pruned. We got to this point. We got pruned. You end up here, and
Yeah.
like these guys, we've all tried. So I feel like that's where it's gonna go, which is kind of cool because as soon as he showed up, I was like, okay, Mobius is still alive. Like, like
it could be.
could be. I mean, I just don't see why
Yeah.
they wouldn't be. Like, it wouldn't
Yeah,
make sense to be like, oh
absolutely.
yeah, he got pruned and he's gone. So
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully he ends up coming back in some way because I actually really like that character and I feel like we did
Yeah.
not get it. I wasn't ready to part ways with him.
Nah.
We need a little bit more, just a little bit
need a little
more.
I mean, Owen Wilson, like I said, you just got to give the man the credit on
Oh,
this
he's
one.
doing
Like,
such a great
just
job,
such
man.
a great job on this show. And like I said, even in the earlier episodes we talked about it, just this relationship between him and Tom Hiddleston, like the chemistry on screen is just amazing. So I think they really nailed the character. Like the people who they've picked, the actors are great. They always do this. They always find people who just work for these, like, Sylvie's fantastic. Like, they just find people who work for these shows, and I think they just do such a great job at casting. Like, you know what I mean? It's just hard to find a casting that I haven't liked. I mean, I have some. I used to have. Well, I don't know. We'll talk about the Black Widow stuff later. But
Yeah.
like, that's another whole conversation. I love Scarlett Johansson. Don't get me wrong, but there's some issues there. But besides that, yeah, that's pretty much what it was on the episode. Let's continue what we always do. What was your favorite part?
My favorite part was the ending scene. Just that small snippet of seeing them all. I was like, this is dope. I can't wait to see where it's going to go. Like I said earlier in the beginning of this episode, Tom Hiddleston said that 4 and 5 were his favorites. So I'm sure 5 is going to be quirky and crazy. Insane. And we're going to get a lot of story. So I'm really excited to see where it's going to go.
And episode 5 is right before Black Widow. Yeah. So who knows, what that's going to be. My favorite part always is conversations. So, like, it's literally the conversation when they're on, when Loki's explaining what makes a Loki. And I think, like I said earlier, it just makes that character everything you want to know about that character is in that dialogue. And I just feel like it's so awesome for him to be able to speak it, especially what he's gone through and seeing all the things that he's seen. He's like, yeah, this is what we do. We'll find a way. And clearly by the end credit scene, he's not dead. So he's not lying. Like, you know what I mean? So they find a way. So, I mean, episode 5, I'm ready. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen next. They can go anywhere. And that's what I think makes this show so good, is that we really have no idea where they're going to go until they go there. And there's nothing better than that. So, yeah. So I think that's going to be.
Also, Marvel, real quick. I know it's already wrapped. You'll have the episodes done. But if you can, add in my boy, the guy at the front desk. Bring him back. He deserves another. He deserves another clip.
I feel like they'll come back just because, like, I feel like they're gonna end up back in the TV.
Yeah. He has to be doing something.
So we'll see what happens. Yeah. But that's gonna be it for this episode, guys. Of us talking about episode 4 of Loki. We will be back next week on Thursday, which we'll have 2 shows essentially for you guys. We're gonna be talking about episode 5 of Loki, and then we're going to talk about Black Widow after we watch that.
That one might be live, right? We might live stream.
That might be live. We might be in the same room.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter, and you'll find out.
And then we might drop that on Friday. Or the same day. We don't know yet. It's just because we're going to drop the Loki, so whatever. But I'm glad you guys are enjoying it, and just hit us with a share if you like the video. Do all that stuff. It helps with the algorithm so that we can be seen more. And we will be back next week to talk about all of the Marvel stuff, I guess. So until next week, guys, Fire Team out.